Hello, Year 7. Here's the next maths video. It is on exercise 10E in the book. This is moving on to more complicated stuff, definitely. Okay, so this could be one of those videos where you have to pause it and re-watch parts of it. That's why I like to do these videos. In some ways, they're better than Zooms because you can replay them. Okay, you can't replay a Zoom if you want me to explain something again. So just be ready to pause this video and watch parts of it again if you need to, because we're moving on to probably the trickiest stuff we've done in maths so far, because it's got different steps in it to find out the answer. Okay, and we're starting to use formulas. Now, the formula that we looked at in the last video, and by the way, if you haven't watched the previous videos, go back and watch those before you watch this video. But the formula that we watched in the previous video, which was exercise 10D, we were talking about pi, and we were talking about working out the circumference of a circle. And we talked about the formula for working out what is the circumference of a circle. And I'll just write it down again. Okay. And to work out the circumference, which is c, we've got to do 2 times pi times radius, or pi times diameter. Okay, and pi is that magical number, which is approximately equal to 3.14, but not exactly. And it's this number where we can figure out things about circles. Okay, so far we've been figuring out the length of the circumference. And today we're moving on to working out the length of just a part of the circumference, talking about arcs and sectors. But later on, we'll be able to use that magical number pi to be able to work out the area of a circle as well. And there's a different formula for that. Okay, so we're getting into territory where you have to concentrate and maybe practice and listen to the instructions maybe a few times and just keep practicing until you get it. Okay, so before we move on to the questions in exercise 10E, okay, we just have to review and possibly learn for the first time, if you didn't cover this in year 6, because we haven't covered it this year. Okay, what is an arc and what is a sector? Okay, I've written them down. Now, these pictures are in your book, by the way, at the start of exercise 10E, which is page 500 and something, and the pictures in the book are better than the pictures that I've drawn down because I'm just doing them freehand. Okay, so maybe get your book open as well. So pause the video and get the maths textbook open if you need to at the moment. Okay, so first of all, an arc. The definition of an arc is that it's part of the circumference of a circle. Okay, see how this curved line here, you can see that it would be part of the circumference of a circle, but it's only a part of it, okay? And these dashed lines here, they're sort of lines that go to an imaginary center of that circle, okay? And so these dashed lines, when you think about it, they would also be the radius of that circle, because a radius is a line that goes from the center of the circle to a point on the circumference of the circle. Now, working out the arc, it's got one more step in it compared to working out the length of the circumference. And that's because you need to know the size of this angle here, okay? There's like an imaginary angle here, which is the angle between these two lines, and each of these two lines, they go to the very end of the arc. And once you know what that angle is, you'll be able to work out the length of that arc by using a formula. Okay, and in the questions in exercise 10E, they always tell you what the size of that angle is, or they give you information that you can work it out. Now, we don't know what the size of this angle is at the moment. It's just a random thing that I drew, okay? But we're just going to use this symbol here. This symbol is called theta, and it's just like a little symbol you can use to say, well, we don't know how big this angle is at the moment, but we can work it out later. Okay, now, actually, no, we'll talk about sector. Okay, now you can see that my circle is very wonky. Okay, there's a much better picture of this in the book. Okay, and a sector, well, a sector is related to what an arc is, because a sector is sort of just like a slice of pizza, and it can be a small bit or it can be a big bit, okay? And part of what a sector is that it has the arc in it, but it also includes the two lines that go back to the center of the circle. And so we've still got this angle here, which we don't know what it's called yet, called theta. But this is like a slice of the pizza, but the arc was just the outside line of the pizza. You can almost imagine the arc as sort of just being the crust of the pizza in a way, but this is a slice of the pizza, okay? Now, just like we can work out the length of that arc, with the correct formula, we can work out the perimeter of the whole sector, which includes the arc, but it also includes these two lines here. And these two lines here, well, over here they were imaginary lines, but over here they are lines which are equal to the radius of the circle because they meet here at the center of the circle. All right, so that's the difference between arc and sector. If you want to, why don't you skip the video back a few minutes and listen to me explain what arc and sector is again, or go to the maths textbook, and I think it's page 503, I could be wrong, but it's the page which is the first page in exercise 10E, and you can have a look at those pictures, which are better pictures than they are that I've written down. All right. Okay, because now we're going to talk about the formula for working out what is the length of an arc. All right. Now, this is the formula down here, okay? This is an L, okay? So that means length, because we're working out the length of this thing here. Length is going to be equal to, we've got to multiply 4 things. Now, the good thing about that is that we already know what 3 of those things are, because we already have 2 and pi and r, which we would remember is the 3 things we need to multiply when we are trying to work out what is the circumference of a circle. So we only have to add one thing to that. And the thing that we have to add to that is a fraction, okay? It's theta over 360. Now, 360, you might remember that number because it's the amount of degrees in a full rotation, okay? It's the amount of degrees in the full rotation of a circle. The crucial thing we're trying to work out is how big is that angle there compared to a whole circle? And if we know how big that angle is, we're going to put the number in up here. So if this one here was 60 degrees, what we would do is it would now be 60 over 360 times 2 times pi times radius. Okay, and in a moment, and I can see that this is going to be a 2-part video now, in a moment I'll show you how to do that on the calculator, because that will always be a calculator question. Okay, things with pi, they're calculator questions because pi is such a long, complicated number. Okay, so that's the formula for working out what is the length of an arc. Okay. Now, there's going to be another formula today, which is working out what is the circumference. What's the best way of doing this? What is the circumference of a sector, okay, which is the arc plus that, okay? And, well, it's even more complicated, but there's only one new thing. So for the perimeter of a sector, it's going to be theta over 360 times 2 times pi times r. And all of this stuff here, that gives us the length of the arc, which we just looked at. And all we've got to add to that is 2 times radius, because it's radius, there's a radius there, and there's a radius there that has to be added to it. All right. Now, the best way to make sense of this is actually to do some of these questions. All right. So this video is almost 10 minutes. So I'm going to stop this video, and in part 2 of the video, we're going to do some of the questions from exercise 10E. Okay, I'll show you how to use these formulas to work it out. Okay, see you in part 2. Bye.